Podcast. 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 Yeah, welcome to the Racer X Exhaust Podcast. I am Jason Wygant. I'm hoping that the 5G cell phone network never really takes root, because if your phone gets really fast, then you'll be able to load this podcast so quickly that you'll be able to blitz right through the theme song. And the goal of putting it at the beginning is so you cannot do that. Also, 5G apparently causes coronavirus, along with many other conspiracy theories. I'm going to give you a little factoid on conspiracy theories, everyone. President Kennedy was assassinated. A million conspiracy theories. It was the CIA, it was Russia, it was the mob. We'll never know. There's some sealed envelopes of what really happened. President Reagan was shot, but not killed. No conspiracy theories. No conspiracy theories as to what happened there, because he didn't die. So what we learn from this is, when something massive happens, we cannot accept simple answers. When something huge, life-changing takes place, we start thinking of the different angles, the different ways that might have come to be, because we just can't accept that something that big could happen from something so simple or so innocent. Just keep that in mind with everything that's going on in the world today. No further comment. No further comment, Your Honor. Now, on to the show. Thanks to Yoshimura. Of course, Yoshimura, our title sponsor. They always have been here at the Exhaust Podcast. They got that new RS12 exhaust system for now the KTM and Husqvarna 250 and 350s, the cross-country and motocross models. We already know they have it for the YZ250F, and we already know they have it for the Suzuki RMZ 450 and 250. I mean, if you look at, for example, Chase Sexton's Honda, or any of the Geico Hondas, such as Jeremy Martin, who won the race over the weekend, you see they run Yoshimura. I have a feeling you'll see some RS12s for Hondas. This is not insider information. I just have a feeling it's coming. Go to yoshimura-rd.com and check out that RS12 system. And also, the folks at Yoshimura have now sent me Chileo pedals. I've got a set of Chileo pedals for my bike, and then a small set that I can put on my son's BMX bike. We're going to go out there smashing it, battling it out with Pace Reed, our arch rival in the 5 and under class. The Reed family, the Weege family, battling every weekend at the local North Carolina BMX scene. So thanks to Yoshimura for sending me those Chileo pedals. You can check them out. They're made in the USA, super high-end, and you can see them at yoshimuracycling.com. I just need to get my mountain bike fixed so I can put these pedals on, because it is a complete disaster. This is what happens when I have weekends without races and I try to work on stuff and I just make it worse because I'm terrible at pretty much everything. So that's some sponsor stuff. Let's get into the actual subject of the show. So 2 rounds of Lucas Oil Pro Motocross down. What an unpredictable run we had. Usually mud races are boring. They're just a slog of follow the leader slot car racing, but we really had compelling action and drama over the weekend at Loretta Lynn's. In the 250s, it really was just down to, could Martin's bike get across the finish line? Jeremy Martin, could he get to the finish line? Now, what I learned from the Geico Honda team, all their bikes were overheating, not because the engines were, they needed to run a detuned version or they had too much compression or something like that. They had these mesh radiator guards to block the mud. And then if you tip over, these guys were tipping over in these deep ruts, and it was actually knocking that off. So then they didn't have any louvers or guards over the radiators at all, and then they were all packing with mud. It happened to every bike, and then eventually everyone overheated. Martin was just lucky enough that because he nursed it as much as he could, he got it to the finish line. None of the engines actually blew. They told me that once all the bikes cooled off, take 5-10 minutes, they cool off, they get back to normal operating temperature, they all fired back up. So their radiators were plugged. The engines didn't blow. They were proud of that the engines themselves held on, but they've got to figure out a better system with the guards over the radiators, and they might even have something this weekend in Ironman. I'm going to go over there socially distanced and try to check that out in the pit. It's just amazing how that all works, and it leads to a broader topic in these mud races now. So with 4-strokes, which get very hot, especially when you use the clutch, we can never determine where the blame lies. Eli Tomac, the prime example here, is this Kawasaki did not give him a bike that was reliable enough to finish both motos, or is Eli hammering on the thing too hard? Now, it's very easy for people to say, don't touch the clutch, man. Just run low RPM. Don't touch the clutch. Well, the problem is in mud races, you end up almost needing to use the clutch more. I'm sure every one of us have ridden in muddy ruts at some point. I know I race a GNCC once or twice a year, and you're dealing with it all the time. You get the rut wrong, you lose momentum, and you have to not stall and not get stuck. And how do you avoid that? You use the clutch. So mud makes you need to use the clutch more, but the more you use it, the more you have a chance of overheating your bike, blowing it up, breaking something. So I'm sure the Kawasaki thing is a 50-50 or close to that, right? It's somewhat the bike, it's somewhat the rider, but it's hard to just say to the rider, don't use the clutch so much. Now, I'm sure he could maybe do better, or other riders could improve, but it's not as simple as saying just don't use the clutch. What I'm saying is I think it's an actual skill. There's an actual skill to being able to ride fast and keep momentum and not make those little mistakes in the ruts that require you to lay off the clutch. And I do know that the Tomac gang, I mean, they've done drills, laps without the clutch, laps without a rear brake, laps standing up, all that stuff. It is an actual skill to be able to do that. It is not just don't do it. So I don't know if Eli was too hard on his bike or the bike just wasn't reliable. The answer, as usual, is probably somewhere in between, right? And that was the big story this week. How much was riders causing the problems? How much were bikes causing the problems? And it has led to a massive swing in this championship now with Eli Tomac down 40 points in a shortened series. We've spent so much time through the last 4 or 5 years talking about Tomac. Oh, if he could just avoid the bad race, if he could just not have this small thing here and there, the titles would come so much easier. But even with all that talk, we've never seen him in this situation outdoors where he's this far back. Supercross, yes, with injuries, but to be 100% healthy and have to make this kind of comeback, this is a rare one, and it's going to be really interesting to watch because, as you can tell, Zach Osborne is locked in. When you can engineer victories from this far back and this far out of it, still win, different conditions at the first 2 rounds, still get it done, Supercross to motocross, still get it done, that dude is locked in. Now, he's not immune to bike failure also, as we saw. And by the way, if you're wondering why Osborne, he did not ride in his A qualifying session because he couldn't get the bike started. The rulebook says you cannot switch to B. In case you haven't heard, the reason he was allowed to was the rulebook makers, the referees over there, Jeff Canfield and MX Sports Pro Racing, I would assume Roy Jansen, who's the racing director, they looked at it like this. Yes, the rulebook says you cannot switch from the A to the B practice. Well, Osborne, you could say, by the way, didn't even really ride that A practice because he never actually went out. He was just sitting there in the start gate. But that's a minor one, and I don't think that would hold up in the court of law. What the real rule they're going on is, yes, in a normal race where you have 2 time qualifying sessions and an LCQ to get in, we enforce that rule. But in this case, as they said, it was force majeure or act of God. We removed 2 of the 3 ways to qualify to get in. We were the ones that did that. We took 66% of the ways to qualify from the race out due to the rain and the mud and to preserve the track. So I think they put a little bit on, we have to be flexible now, and since we took 66% of the chance of getting out or getting into the race out, we have to put something else in to make it a little easier. So they didn't enforce that if you're in the A group, you can't go into the B group rule. And you could also say Osborne didn't actually ride that practice, but he had all intent to. He was there. He just couldn't get the bike started. So I know that was a bit controversial, not hardcore. Kawasaki did not actually protest. I believe they did go over and have a conversation, show the rule, and ask for clarification. But there was not an actual protest of money and then going to the AMA in Ohio, or it might even be AMA Pro Racing in Florida. That's another story for another day, how confusing this stuff gets. So Osborne ends up, look, I'm sure Cowie was bummed at the beginning of the day that Osborne got in with what they thought didn't match the rulebook, but who knew that 5 hours later, Osborne would end up winning the overall and Tomac would end up not finishing either of the motos. So now it looks even worse if you're Kawasaki. And if you remember, Kawasaki was not happy about Zach Osborne running it in on Adam Cianciarulo a few years ago, and Cianciarulo got an ACL injury, and knocking down Joey Savacci with a block pass to end all block passes with a title on the line in Vegas that same year. And also, I will take this a couple steps deeper. In general, the other teams feel that Roger DeCoster gets favorable treatment from the racing people. And this is also, you hear in Supercross all the time, that Roger's the one that can go and get the whoops cut down if his rider isn't good in whoops. We've been hearing about that all the way back since the Carmichael, Suzuki, DeCoster days. I bet you the answer, kind of like, is it the bike or the rider blowing up here? I bet you the answer is a little bit of both. I am sure at some point DeCoster has tried to pull some strings. We certainly know way back in 2006, Carmichael, fuel was found illegal. DeCoster came up with a great idea of looking at the FIM and AMA rulebook separately. The rules were different. He was able to exploit that, and they let Carmichael go and gave him his points back. So there's an example of DeCoster making things happen. And there probably was a time in the RC days where maybe he went, I don't have any verification on this, but I mean, anyone who was around those days swears this happened. Ask Chad Reed that DeCoster could get the whoops cut down because Reed was better in the whoops than Carmichael. However, I do not believe that every single time a decision is made that involves a KTM and Husky rider, it is because of Roger DeCoster complaining or because of the fear of Roger DeCoster. I mean, you saw the fire drill if you're watching an NBC Sports Gold with Osborne. That whole thing was happening within minutes. There wasn't enough time for DeCoster to even get over there and make it happen. But the overarching point isn't just, did DeCoster get involved? It's just the other teams think that's the case. They think that DeCoster ends up getting favorable treatment for KTM and Husky riders. And if they think that, that makes them angry. So I'm just telling you where the head is at for a lot of these other teams who are jealous of the type of treatment that Roger DeCoster, in their mind, gets. And perception is reality. So just a little drama behind the scenes. We all love that stuff, right? And I'm not even going to get into this. I'm just gonna say something, and then you can get into it in your own head, in your own mind. Back in the day, Zach Osborne used to ride and train at the Tomac compound in Colorado. Did it for, I think, a year. Didn't work out as well as he liked, and he moved on to Alden Baker. And then Osborne became like this winning machine in the 250 class. I'm just going to plant those seeds right there. I'm just going to plant those seeds, and you take that anywhere you want. But there is history personal between Tomac and Osborne. I'm not saying it was bad, but in this sport in general, when you work with someone and then you don't anymore, and then you go on to someone else, and then you end up being competitors, just usually the way things work. This is a highly charged, highly competitive environment, FYI. So now we're off to Indiana. Hopefully it doesn't rain there. It might. There are limited tickets available. 6,000 spectators are allowed, but I've heard they have not sold all those tickets. So go to the race. You never know. We don't know what the future holds, right? So if you have a chance to go to a race as a spectator now, probably want to do it. That's a pretty cool track, and hopefully it's not muddy. I want to give a shout-out to other sponsors, including Psychic MX, full-range motocross brand from engine internals to your everyday wear and tear parts. From your weekend warriors to your full-on race guys, they have everything you need. Go to psychicmx.com or visit your local dealer today. And also MX Tech Suspension, which manufactures professional aftermarket suspension for riders who want excellent comfort and control. Their quality engineering is based on a lifetime of specializing in dirt bike suspension, and they have developed the Lucky Fork, featuring dual springs, dual cartridges, Huck valves, and it's ultra lightweight. Latest technology for the best performance and lightweight. Head over to mx-tech.com for more information on MX Tech suspension. So now into our show, and this is a podcast from Monday night. Marvin Musquin, Adam Cianciarulo, RJ Hampshire, and Cameron McAdoo. In this one, I'm asking a lot of the questions, but not all of them. This is actually an MX Sports hosted press conference. MX Sports puts the press conferences together. Brandon Short, who's the PR guy for the series, hosts them. Just like in Supercross, where it's run by Feld. People keep calling them the Racer X press conferences. They are not a Racer X press conference. We're merely participating. But they do send in the email invite a link to download, and I don't know why no one else downloads these things and turns them into podcasts. Do you want to hear from Cianciarulo and Musquin? Of course you do. So enjoy.
Thanks, everyone, for joining today's Monday Zoom. We have a few guys from Saturday's event here on here. Obviously, we were not able to welcome Marvin and Adam to Saturday night's Zoom. They both caught a flight, but they're here with us Monday to talk about their weekend. Joining us from the 250 class, we have Cameron McAdoo as well as RJ Hampshire, who both also had solid days. RJ's day probably wasn't what he was in the end, but solid days all around for those guys as well. We may potentially be joined by Lance Kobush, but it doesn't look like he's here yet, so we'll move ahead without him. So start off, Adam, we'll start with you. Runner-up finish, your first one in the 450 class. Probably wasn't the kind of day that you thought maybe would get you your first podium, but it was a pretty wild day all around for everybody. 3.5 gets you second overall. It was a good bounce back from, the opening round, where you had your time out front and had that crash. Talk about your day and what it felt like to bounce back, but then also just get on the podium for the first time in the 450 class.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, since the beginning of Supercross there, when I broke my collarbone, it seems like I was at a little bit of my year was kind of spiraling a little bit. I had a couple bad things happen. Obviously, had that crash in Supercross in Salt Lake, and was doing well at the first Loretta's and had a crash there, and that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So it was good to, in super gnarly conditions like that, just to put a couple solid shows together. I can't say I've ever gone 3.5 for second overall, but everybody knows in the mud, if you put yourself up there and kind of just keep chugging along, you can put yourself in a position to, be up there in the overall podium. And I definitely played a little bit cautious in that second moto, just trying to, bring her home and put two solid finishes together. And definitely glad we, were able to get a consistent day under our belt. And I think, I definitely got a lot of confidence from that and looking forward to kind of seeing where that puts us going forward.
Marv, we'll move over to you. Again, a good day for you. You got 8.2. Your first moto was probably, first moto was pretty hard there. You were kind of in the mix with that mid-pack battle there in the top 10. You came back in a big way in Moto 2. Had a chance for the win there right at the end. Almost got Zach. You're also coming back from an injury, a pretty significant one. This is just your second race back, and really over a year layoff when all things considered. It has to feel good to get back on the box. You're now second in points with that. You got to be pretty happy with where you are, considering you had really not a lot of prep coming into the season, and you just kind of hit the ground running. How do you feel about getting on the podium, but then kind of being in the thick of this early title fight right
now? Yeah, it's been a while. I've been racing, obviously, but I got a good time to get ready for that new season. Even though, it was a tough one, missing a whole year, and I mean, my knee, it's still not perfect, but I'm feeling actually pretty good on the bike, so that's the most important thing. And then, I mean, leaving Loretta's number 2, second in the championship, I'm right now, I can't believe it, because I mean, everybody had a lot of issues, in the first 2 rounds, to be honest, not only this weekend. So I'm happy, but I know I can do better. So that's why I'm excited to keep on going and to try to be better. And obviously, this weekend was tough for everybody, and unfortunately, that first moto, we made a mistake on the rear tire, and that didn't really work out for me. It didn't even help me for the start with that paddle tire, but that's the way it is. You try things, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So I tried my best. I ended up going down, and I had to stop for gloves. I stopped way too long, so that was not good. I lost some positions, ended up 8th. I was not happy with that, but definitely the second moto was better. The track was better too. The start was awesome, and that put me in a good position to actually battle for the win. And Zach got me. I found some new lines from him, especially going through the 10 Commandment, and I started to ride better and better. Unfortunately, I follow him right before the finish line. That left, I went to that big red. I follow him, and I got stuck. The left leg got stuck, so I lost like 10 seconds. But after that, I was able to come back on his rear wheel and get second. So that was a good charge at the end. It was actually a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed the riding towards the end. But yeah, I want to do better than that. But my goal was to be competitive, and I think I'm right there. I'm able to battle with the top guys. So I want to get better and do more.
Awesome. Cameron, we'll move to you. You have become the guy at Pro Circuit for this summer. You know, injuries have obviously hit the team hard. Now you are the guy that started the year with them. You're carrying the flag with them. I know you have Mitchell and you have Darian alongside you, but you know, you've been tasked with being the guy to carry the flag for that team, and you stepped up this weekend. I mean, you had a great starts, both moto. You were able to be in the mix pretty much all day long, and ultimately it panned out in your a career best day for you. 4-5, getting you 4th overall, just off the podium. Talk about your day, what it feels like to get up front, battle up front, and you know, kind of what you're tasked with over there at Pro Circuit now.
Yeah, I mean, the day actually ended up going pretty well for obviously our circumstances. Just being able to get through both motos well with the bike, and yeah, it was good. That was my best outdoor finish so far. So that's where I want to be. I want to be on the podium. Like we were close to that, but it was good to, you know, get through the motos pretty drama free, which was for both of us on the team. So it felt good to get up front. First moto, I led a couple laps and made some crazy mistakes, which I think everyone was. I think it was who could make the least amount of mistakes and keep their bike going was the main goal for the whole day. So yeah, it felt good to have just a consistent, solid day, honestly, starting from practice. So we want to just keep building and do that in the dry.
Cool. And RJ, day couldn't have started off better for you. That was quite a ride in that first moto. No goggles. You held off Dylan, everything thrown your way. Nothing was stopping you. You were determined. You got that moto win. Your first one with the team. Second moto, I think aspirations were high. I think the start didn't go quite as planned for you. And then it just, as you tried to fight back, obviously your day came to an end before you expected it to. All things considered, I think there's a lot of positives for you to come out, especially considering you're fresh off an injury too. And you're just trying to get back to racing shape, I'm sure. Talk about your day, your positives, the ups and downs, you know, and what you can use that for moving forward this season.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it started off awesome. Got a good start that first moto, and dude got hit by like a Sonata that first corner. A-Mark got me pretty good. And then I struggled with vision right away. So ended up, I think it was lap 2, I had to take my goggles off and, my lead and try to, gap where I can pull in without losing the lead and get a fresh pair of goggles. Well, then about halfway came and my bike started cutting out a little bit from water, getting in all the electricals. So, there goes my plan of stopping for goggles. So at that point, I knew Dylan was coming also. And it was just like, look, I'm not positive my bike's going to make it. If I stop, and said it's not going to stay running. So it's better off just to suck this one up and, try to make it happen. And sure enough, we saved the bike. That was huge for myself. Winning that first moto, and then second moto, we acted wrong with the tire, and I went from a knobby to a paddle on, just spun off the gate, made contact first corner, ended up going down, and was stuck there for probably 20, 30 seconds. Like, it was a while. Knew our work cut out for us. I charged hard and put myself in a podium position, and then Heart Raft ended up going down right in front of me, or his bike quit right in front of me. I tried to get out of the main line, and I got stuck. And then, dude, sure enough, like, I was begging Brandon to kind of help me out because I knew that he was done and, won, coming into that moto. So any points mattered. He ended up helping me get out, which, I'm super thankful for, because without that, I wouldn't have even got any points at second moto. So we were still, I think, I was 7. Where I was 1-7, which I think would have tied A-Mark third, and maybe only lost 2 points to Dylan on the weekend. But instead, lap and a half left, I didn't make it. My bike let go and went 118 on the day. So not how we wanted it to, but was pretty happy with, and where we're at.
We'll open up to the media. Use the raise hand option if you guys can, and that'll help me out. Johnny, we'll start with you.
Thank you. This is Johnny Hopper with Cooksey Media and MX Unfiltered. AC, this one's for you, man. I know you have sort of a stigma of being a send-it rider. do you think having it be muddy kind of slow down to go fast and sort of help limit the possibility of mistakes for you?
No, I mean, if anything, you would think it would create more mistakes when conditions like that. You would think if I was super sketchy, I would be on the ground, but I always seem to be doing well in the mud, especially these last few years. So I think, really a lot of my crashes and stuff that has come in the last couple of years, really, I mean, they haven't felt because I'm riding out of control or doing anything nuts or sketchy, even though I do like to play that up a little bit. I'm not going to lie, but I think I rode smart, and I think my attitude's really good in the mud. I really enjoy it, and I just try to embrace the moment, and I think that's probably had something more to do with it than the mud, I guess, slowing the speeds down.
Yeah, you're real tall, so I would say that would probably help too. Thank you, AC. Mark,
Yep.
This one's for you. With Webb and Roxon being out, do you feel like you can capitalize on maybe some of their misfortune? I know racers, period, they don't want to wish ill on any other rider, but just with them not being there, does that maybe put into play that you can maybe up your stock, get some better finishes?
Yeah, that's two good riders that are not out there behind the gate, but there is 8 or 10 other good guys. So I think this year there's a lot of good guys and a lot of riders that are capable of winning motos, I feel like, or getting on the podiums. And we already see with 4 motos, already see 3 different winners. So yeah, that proves you that there is not only like 1 or 2 guys that can win. So I mean, either Cooper or Kenny behind the gate or not, it doesn't really change much, because I think we're going to battle a lot with the other guys. But yeah, unfortunately for those guys, they had issues, and same as me during this year, I missed Supercross. So it's part of the sport. But like I just said, it's the gate right now this year on a 450 is packed, and there's a lot of good guys. So it's going to be good racing.
Yeah, makes for interesting racing. Thank you, guys.
Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, Alex Gober, MotoOnline.com. This one's for Adam. A couple of races coming up, Ironman, Redbud. How excited are you, I guess, to get to a couple of traditional, tracks on the calendar?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I've made a lot of progress in outdoors the past couple of years, and I felt like I rode really good at the first race. I had a bad start in, I guess, a little bit of a drier condition we had at the first Loretta's. I rode good. I came through the pack, and again in the mud, I came through and felt good and ended up on the box. So I think with all the improvements I've made, I'm anxious to kind of see where I am on a more normal circumstance. Like you said, a track that we've all been to and ridden and a little bit of, more normal conditions. Excited to see where I stack up. I think we're in a good spot. And I mean, the season is young. We have a lot of races to go, and, a lot of good times ahead.
Is there any one track, I guess, coming up on the schedule that you look at and you're like, that's the one that I would like to, potentially stand on top of the podium? Or is that the thought or the goal every weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of knows their conditions that they're a little bit better in, and they'll probably have a little bit, of a better chance. But to be honest, now that I have been working on a lot of my weaknesses the past couple of years, I'm yet to kind of figure out what my my favorite conditions or my best conditions are. I'm kind of all over the board. I surprise myself on, seems like a weekly basis these days, with how I feel on certain tracks and certain conditions that I've maybe not excelled on in the past. So I think the key is just to have an open mind and just do the absolute best you can, no matter where you go. And, don't limit yourself from a mental perspective. And I think I have the talent to win every weekend. I feel I do. So that'll be the goal.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Mitch, go ahead.
Mitch Kendra, Racer X. Cameron, my question's for you. Kind of like you're saying, you got thrust into the lead there pretty quickly in that first moto. And then whenever Dylan Ferrandis is able to get around you, like what's going through your mind, kind of learn off of the lines that he's taking, and how much are you able to take away when there's a guy like him who's really experienced and he's out and you're not too far behind him?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to like really look at lines, especially the way the track was. Like, I mean, it was ever changing the whole time. But yeah, I tried to do my best to kind of latch on it, but at the same time keep a distance to where, because I already had, like, I lost my goggles, 10 minutes in, so I was battling with lappers at one point, and I was like, I got passed back by a lapper because they were battling to try and go back through, and I was like, I can't see, like, so it was just pretty much like felt like survival mode at that point. But yeah, I did my best to try and keep them behind me, for as long as I could. But yeah, so it's good to get up there and ride with those guys and learn as much as I can.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Marvin, this is for you. First of all, just what a relief is it to finally be back at races since you had not raced in almost 12 months? Was it just a relief, and was it more fun than ever or extra fun just to be back racing?
Yeah, and then I felt like I had, for some reason, no pressure going to Ruedas, that I was just excited to be out there. And I mean, that's what we told ourselves with Matilda. We're like, man, we're pretty relaxed actually, because we were just like pumped to be back and do what we love and be out there. So yeah, I was actually like super bummed we didn't ride press day on Friday on the first Ruedas, because I just wanted to go out there and ride, break in the race bike and stuff like that. I mean, when you haven't done that for a year, you definitely miss it. And yeah, we were just happy to be back. And obviously, it's like I just said earlier, good to see that I'm right there. I mean, that was my goal, obviously, to get back to close to 100%, but you never know until you go racing. So now we're back and back in the racing routine, with the week riding practices and stuff. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a good one, and I'm excited to keep on going.
With the knee injury, was that the same knee? You had a few injuries here and there, like even before Supercross, I think 2019, like halfway through 2017 outdoors, you had a knee problem. Has that been the same one each time, or has it gone back and forth?
Yeah, that was my left one. Yeah, same one.
So is there a chance actually, now that you really had it fixed, that some of that nagging stuff could eventually go away now that you've had that level of surgery?
I mean, that was a big surgery, and a lot of things repaired inside. So yeah, I'm definitely still working on my knee, but like I said, I'm like, when I'm better, like on the bike with my brace and the boot, than walking around the house, I would say, or do exercises at the gym. I feel like it's kind of crazy to think that, but yeah, when I put the brace on and I'm on the bike, I don't really think about it. So that's awesome, and I'm really happy with that. So yeah, I'm excited to keep working and hopefully get better and better feelings and stronger.
Yeah, does it give you a little confidence? Because I would think 2 super rutted races would be like worst case scenario, and it turned out okay. So does that actually give you a little boost right there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was not really like high speed track, but definitely a lot of ruts. Yeah, I definitely cut my foot a couple of times, especially the first race. And the second one too, obviously, but like the first one was like a little bit more high speed. So but yeah, it was definitely challenging, and good to see that I was doing pretty good with the knee, with the leg. And to be honest, I feel like I'm definitely more cautious with my leg, and I definitely put my foot really high in the ruts and stuff. I don't drag my leg anymore, and it's a good thing. It's super important, you don't want to re-injure it or have pain, for the next moto or something. So it gives me confidence for the next races for sure.
And then timeline-wise, if the series had even started in July when it came back, do you think you would have been back for that, or did this August thing actually just work out almost perfectly for you?
Yeah, it definitely worked out really, really well. I mean, and especially and even physically, everything, like I just felt a lot better. I would say the 3 or 2 weeks before the first round. So that was great. It worked out great. I mean, when I got surgery back in December, my surgeon was like, I think you're done for the whole year. Like you won't be able to come back and then racing even for motocross. But like in the back of my head, I'm like, I know you're telling me that, but I'll do everything, to come back for outdoors. But if it would have been July, I would have been. I mean, even like before, like the years before, we start racing in like around end of May or something. So that would have been impossible. July, it would have been maybe a little short. It would have been tough, but now it's the perfect timing. So I'm feeling pretty strong.
All right. Thanks, Marv. Good to see you back. One
you.
question for Cameron. Is there a little pressure now since you're the only regular guy in the team? There's 2 replacement guys, but now you're like the veteran of a team that you've only been on for 6 months or so. So what's that like under the truck? Is it any different?
No, I think it's the same. I put the same amount of pressure on myself. Like I want to win and I want to be up front just as much, whether my teammates are fill-in riders or whether they're original teammates. I'm racing to win myself. So that's obviously, there's, an expectation of, hey, like, they want me to win no matter what, whether we've got all 4 original riders or not. So I think it's treated about the same, to be honest. I've had that question quite a bit, but yeah, I feel like we're all treated the same, and even the fill-in guys, like they want them to do it just as well. So yeah.
We've always heard with you, Cameron, like how hard you're willing to work and how hard you ride even during the races. Has part of your process actually been trying to back that down a little bit instead of fire yourself up more? Has that been part of your evolution here?
We've been trying to work on just riding smarter at times. I've had in the past, where I can tell that I don't make the smartest decisions sometimes. And I am willing to do whatever it takes on the racetrack. And sometimes that's hurt me in the past, and it still does sometimes that I struggle with that. So, I've worked on some weaknesses and stuff, and working with Nick and Adam has helped me a lot, and just to kind of realize some of the things that I need to clean up in areas. But I'm still willing to send it, and I'll still do whatever it takes.
Okay, thanks. And next for RJ, how did your eyes feel after that first moto, and what did you do between motos to try to get ready for Moto 2? Because you must have been getting blasted that whole first moto, and there's not a big turnaround.
Yeah, honestly, like I said, my adrenaline was so high, and kind of just my will to win. A pit stop wasn't going to happen, just in the circumstances. So, I got off the track. We were flushing my eyes out. With Dr. G had some. I think it was like saline or something. But yeah, we ended up getting all the dirt out, and they were blurry heading down for that second moto, but for the most part, they were good to go. And then same thing, second moto, I ended up having to lose my goggles. I think not near as early, probably past halfway. Kind of the same issue. Had a little bit of dirt in there, and they were sore Saturday night, but Sunday came around, and now they were all good, back to normal by now.
And one more for you, RJ. It was great at the opener. You're right there on the podium battling for it. And then even though this result overall wasn't good, does it still give you some confidence that you backed it up? Because you said after the first race, you wanted to show you're a podium guy every week. So do you feel like you kind of did that, even though it wasn't an overall podium?
Man, I feel like I did. I started the year off with moto scores 3-2-1. That's by far the best I've ever been. And I feel like I'm happy with where I'm at. I know my speed's, solid. Main thing was just prove to myself, like, look, I can, battle for wins. And that first moto was pretty close, but we had, maybe 20 back to third. I was in the mud, but still I felt like, that's where I should be. So just kind of keep my head, on straight and get good starts, run up front. I know I should be there. So prove it again this weekend.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll let somebody else go.
Darkside, did you want to jump in?
Cameron, we each touched on it a little bit, about kind of backing it down a little bit, that mental game. With the conditions that they were, you really couldn't really just ram it in there into the ruts. You had to back it down and save the bike. And we saw what happened with some of the other guys. How do you mentally do that when you're out there competing and really, I need to go, but I also need to save the bike?
Yeah, I think the biggest way to make it easy was seeing every 3 corners someone stuck in the mud with their bike up in smoke. So when mine started smoking, actually I noticed it because it was coming out of the top, which a lot of times when you start losing coolant and stuff, it comes out the bottom and you don't even really know until your mechanic tells you. So that was helpful. And then, yeah, I really did everything I could. That was my main focus, just save the bike. The mud was so sticky and heavy that everyone was overheating. So just kind of had to, like, it was almost self-taught, like you just have to do it, chill out. And so, yeah, we did everything we could. And I was really happy that we made it to the end of the second moto. That was really tough. And it was pretty stressful, honestly, because early on, I think I overheated the bike a little bit. So we had a long ways to go when it first started happening. But yeah, we made it happen and the bike was solid.
Right on. Adam, you still there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, man. So I asked Zach this, and I know it wasn't on purpose, but what'd you think when he ran it in there on you a little bit? Kind of he didn't mean to, obviously, but would that kind of scare you a little bit?
Well, I didn't know he was there, for one, and I knew I was really bad in that section from the mechanics area to the 10 Commandments. I had been trying to figure it out a few laps prior. So he definitely came up on me quick there. And my first initial thought was, honestly, Anderson's kind of been riding like an a-hole so far this year to me, like running me all over the track and stuff. So I thought it was him. And then I saw the 16 and I'm like, we've run into each other so many times. I almost just laugh it off at this point. No, I mean, both of those guys were cool. But yeah, I more so just laughed. I honestly didn't have the pace that he had. So I did my best not to get emotional and not, get crazy mad and try to do something stupid. So just tried to, chug along. And then Jason came by me a couple laps later. But those guys were just a little bit better than me. And I just kind of took a back seat and took a fifth.
All right. And after last week with the issues, your buddy Chris Betts, how did he give you any advice to turn things around?
Oh yeah, Chris is funny, man. He's very enthusiastic. Very enthusiastic. I love Chris. He's awesome.
Marvin, did you expect to be this good right off the bat, coming off the injury and the surgery?
I mean, that was the goal.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if other riders feels the same, but when you get injured and you're not racing and you watch those guys on TV and I watch those guys like racing Supercross and you don't, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it was hard, you're like, man, yeah, obviously those guys are riding well, but you don't know if you can come back and be as good or definitely beat them. So, yeah, it was definitely a question mark. And obviously I have good team training partners with Zach, with Cooper, RJ, and Charlie guys. So, I mean, those guys fast, obviously, Zach and Cooper. So it was good to compare my speed, my intensity, and doing motos or anything. So it was actually, I had some good days, there, here and there, sometimes they were faster and sometimes I was right there with them. So it was good to see that and gives you confidence, but you never really know until you go racing, and racing is so much different than practicing. And yeah, I mean, practicing the first at Loretta's went actually pretty good, and the motos I was just my starts were good, but my first lap was terrible, and I lost a lot of positions. But then I was able to fight back and make some passes and and battle with those guys and push until the end. So that was good to see that I was competitive and it felt good. So I ran out of gas a little bit the second moto the first round, but obviously this weekend, like physically, it was not really hard. I mean, I want to say like cardio wise, it was more like physically, like body and muscles, but I felt good. I felt good, and it's good to see that. But I definitely want to be better and keep on training, because it's been a long time off racing, but I had good times on the bike already. So, but racing will make you better and better. So I'm excited for the future.
Right on. RJ, tried to get you on the Moto X Pod show last week, and there was a particular event you're waiting on before you wanted to come on the show. So I'm going to forgive you for going on pole tonight. But no, really, are you able to see that these first 2 rounds are sort of hopefully unusual conditions, and now, you're still right there, and it's time to turn it on for these last 7?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first part, I kind of owe Pulp for the whole Supercross deal. So,
it's fine.
You got to forgive me for that one.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, but no, I mean, honestly, I was kind of in the same boat as Marv. I think we started riding together first day back from injury. So, we were, hammering, doing everything we could to be ready. And I think we both, kind of proved that, I wanted to be competitive from the beginning, and I had a lot to prove. Missing Supercross was a bummer for myself, for the team. And, I just wanted to prove, look, I'm doing the work. I'm, at my best, that I have been. So just keep it going. I lost a lot of points this weekend, but, we have quite a few races left. So like I said, I want to be there every weekend, be battling for wins, and, stay consistent, be on the box, and, just continue to prove myself.
Mitch, go ahead.
Real quick, RJ. So just we kind of mentioned it with Marvin about him dabbing his knee. Were you kind of nervous at all with these first 2 rounds, a little bit in the mud? If worse comes to worse and it's really sloppy, you're kind of paddling through it. Were you nervous with that at all, or what were you going through your mind with that stuff?
Yeah, no. I mean, the only time that's kind of scared me was practice this weekend. But I don't know if you watched the same moto as I did. But first moto, I don't think my feet were on the pegs. So that gives you kind of idea of where I'm at with my leg, and how confident I am in it.
Cool.
Johnny?
RJ, with you being out front, do you see any positive affirmations like, I got this, one more lap? I mean, what goes through your head when, you're out front in a moto?
I think this weekend was a little bit different than normal with the circumstances with my bike and not having goggles and barely being able to see. Man, I was just praying to see the 2-lap board, and it honestly made the moto seem a lot longer than what it actually was. But realistically, I don't think I hit the ground all day besides off the start, that second moto. So for me, it was just to stay on the bike. I knew guys around me were making a lot of mistakes. And it was huge for me to not do that, because I knew if I stopped, I probably wouldn't get back going. So just stay consistent, try to stand up as much as I could. But like I said, my feet were off most of the time. But yeah, just happy to get through it. The results were a bit better, but I don't think we're out of it yet.
Awesome. And then I got one for AC. It's a fun question. With the ruts being basically like 2 corners long, and I know you had Anderson and Osborne coming on you, did you ever think of maybe if I just slow down, I could brake check one of these guys, slow their forward momentum, and I could finish in front of them?
No, I didn't. I never thought of brake checking them. To be honest with you, I'm just trying to go as fast as I can the whole time. And I did think about just slowing down in general and trying to be a little bit more balanced in the ruts. I think that was one thing that was super key this weekend, was not getting your weight too much to one side where, as these other guys know, when you start getting off balance, you got to pull the clutch in, pull the brake, then both feet go down and you get passed by like 4 guys. So I was just kind of thinking about how to be smart and trying to find the best lines, because they were pretty much changing every lap.
Awesome.
Alex?
Yeah, just a quick one for Marvin. You've been top 3 in the 450 championship, 16, 17, 18, 19. Does the strategy change for you at all, considering, this year's championship is shorter, than what we've seen in the past?
I think I've been second a few times, and third, not only third. No, I mean, it's, this year I feel like anything's possible. And even though there's a lot of guys, like I said earlier, that are capable of getting on the podium or winning motos, it's going to be very open, which is good for the fans and the racing. And I'm excited for that, to battle with different guys. And I feel like the last few years it was obviously Eli, me, but other guys would get injured. So yeah, I think the racing will be better this year. I'm excited to. I mean, I don't know how I'm like second in the championship right now with the results I got, but I was obviously, yeah, I didn't DNF a moto, for the first round. So it'll be key to be consistent. But I want to do more to gain more points for sure. And then I've done really well. I mean, never won the championship, but been pretty close, the last few years. And it's a bad thing and a good thing, because you want to win, and it's hard when you don't and you come up short and you get second or third. But I mean, I always give my best, and this year will be another year of trying to get that championship.
And that's the conclusion of the podcast. Yeah, Marvin, I think the real question for us was just how would he even do? We first were wondering, would he even race? Then how would he do? It was definitely not a stamp it, Marvin's in this for this title this year, like you normally would do with him, not after that long of a layoff. Plus, some sort of knee injury or knee surgery at some point could be the end, and you might not be able to get back to 100%. So the fact that Marvin's in it, and with a little bit of a caveat, yes, he's second in points, but he's already 19 down on Osborne. He hasn't quite been at his normal level. Normal Marv is probably podium every single moto, right? That hasn't been the case this year yet, but with how nutty it's been, he's second in points. If you're second in points after 2 rounds, you have a shot at the championship. So it's good to know that Marvin's back up in there, especially now that we've lost Webb and lost Roxon. It still seems pretty deep in the 450 class, at least for now. But is there a chance that Osborne is already establishing it as not so deep already? We need more data, and that's what makes it so fun. So I invite you to come to the race in Indiana this weekend. Come on out. Redbud will come up next, but the only way to go to Redbud, it's a doubleheader Friday and Monday, but you have to race as an amateur. You have to sign up as an amateur. You can get up to 6 passes per racer, but there's no just driving up and saying, I want to watch the racing for the weekend. You have to be associated with a racer or be a racer and be a part of their package. So Indiana, though, doesn't have that restriction. If you just want to come and watch, should be a good one and still pretty dramatic. The way the racing is going in both classes. We'll see how it turns out. I want to thank Yoshimura, of course, our title sponsor for this Exhaust podcast, and also RacerX. Go to racerxonline.com/weege and check out the Nationals box. The Nationals box, we give you stuff that you would get if you could go to the races this year, but if you're not, we'll throw it in for just $20 on top of the regular subscription price. We give you a t-shirt, we give you this souvenir program, we give you a sticker and a poster that you could get at the races. And you also get the magazine in print and digital form. So go to racerxonline.com/weege. That's our show. I'm headed to Indiana soon. I am so pumped. We are back on it. We're going to multiple tracks, multiple races, doing television, covering events. Oh, man. We knew we would miss it as soon as it was gone. We did. We need to embrace it now that it's back. Thanks for listening.